Hello, it is I, the one who is afraid. I am the one who fears speech, so I wear an eye patch on my right eye. Or no, I am the one that fears to speak because I choose to. Because I wear an eye patch on my right eye, I fear to choose. I fear fucking. I fear speaking because I wear an eye patch on my right eye. That took a while to get out. I was trying to be clever. I was trying to be methodical, but it didn't work out. The structure of soullessness. In seeking to understand a phenomenon as inchoate as soullessness, it may be helpful to depict it through a model that, like all models, oversimplifies a complex reality in service of greater clarity. This model depicts soullessness as a layering process that builds up through successive strata and that progressively distance an individual from the soul's deeper sensitivities. The deep structure of soullessness might be pictured as a ball composed of concentric layers that form around a dense core. At the dense core of the soullessness is numbness, the absence of that feeling. The behaviors and acts that arise from this numbness can be pictured as an outer, visible ring of the ball. Between the numb core and the outer ring of observable behaviors are three additional concentric rings. Immediately surrounding the numb core is the memory of the intolerable experience that evoked the numbing response. Typically, these are experiences of overwhelm and trauma, shamed failure and inadequacy. Surrounding and covering these intense, intolerable experiences often is a ring of shame. The effect that arises in response to the failure and the inadequacies of the self surrounding the shame layer are the defenses against shame, attack self, attack other, avoidance, and withdrawal. These defenses against shame can manifest in observable behaviors. Why don't we draw a picture of what this would look like? Perfect, perfect place to draw a picture. Okay, I need black. I'm willing to bet you I know exactly what this picture is going to look like. It's not going to look like what they explained, but so the deep structure of soullessness might be pictured as a ball composed of concentric layers that form around a dense core. At the dense core of soullessness is numbness, the absence of feeling. The behaviors and acts that arise from this numbness can be pictured as an outer visible ring of the ball. Between the numb core and the outer ring of observable behaviors are three additional concentric rings. Immediately surrounding the numb core, we got to do this one by one. First, I'm going to do it on this because I'm going to do it their way, and then I'm going to draw it to what I think it should look like. So we've got our ball core. There's our ball core. That's dense. And that is the deep structure of soullessness might be pictured as a ball composed of concentric layers that form around a dense core. At the dense core of the soullessness is numbness. So this is numbness. The absence of feeling, yeah. The behaviors and acts that arise from this numbness can be pictured as an outer visible ring of the ball. Okay. Between the numb core and the outer ring of observable behaviors are three additional concentric rings. So we got to make it bigger. Numbness. 1, 2, 3. Damn it, that's not a good circle. 1, 2, 3. Wait. 1, 2, 3. Okay. What does concentric mean? I don't know what concentric means. I can't do this right now. Hold on. Concentric. Concentric. Concentric circles. Having a common center. And they share the same axis. So, what? So I've got, what are these things then? The behaviors and acts arising from these numbers can be pictured as an outer visible ring of the ball. Between the numb core and the outer ring of observable behaviors are three additional concentric rings. Immediately surrounding the numb core is the memory of the intolerable experience that evoked the numbing response. Okay. These are the experiences of overwhelm and trauma. We already know that. Shamed, failure, and inadequacy. Surrounding and covering these intolerable experiences is often a ring of shame. Shame. The effect that arises in response to the failure and the inadequacies of the self. Surrounding the shame layer are the defenses against shame. The effect that arises in response to the failure surrounding the layers. So, attack self, attack other, avoidance, and withdrawal. Attack self, attack others, avoidance, and withdrawal. Okay. These defenses against shame can manifest in observable behaviors. And that behaviors. Now let's see if my theory is going to be right on this. So we've got, let's get a piece of computer paper. Although I would like to know where that thing went, because this is going to be my last part. Oh shit, what did I do? Okay, we're still going. Keep my mouse away from my computer. Okay. We were drawing a diagram. Nobody's watching anyway, so she can come back. I don't care. Somebody will watch it. Like I said, all these videos are ad-libbed as I'm reading it, and I've never read it before. So, no preamble. This was not planned. This was not a planned series of speech videos. Okay. So, we've got perfect. I knew it would. I knew it would. I knew it would. I knew it would. I draw better with my right eye. Because my right eye is in my right hand, my left eye is in my left hand. Boogity boogity boo. I see with my hands. Okay. So this is what we call numbness. Front picture. Okay. Okay, so Whatever. Okay, so go back. Okay, Mandy's still not here. Okay, and then we've got the iris. I have a theory that everything in life is about an eye. Eyeball. I don't want to go into details about why. Okay. Now, I may have made this whole, it's weird, but I think it's cool because I like drawing. But this is what they were pretty much saying, and this is how I drew it as a diagram. So I could somehow try to maybe convince people that everything is about an eyeball. But unless you're blind, because, well, even then, like, I get you, bro. I know why you're blind. Okay, so we have an eyeball, right? We've got the pupil, we've got the iris, we've got the blood veins, we've got the actual eye itself, which is called a sclera, and then we got the eye socket skin that holds the eyeball in. So with this, you've got the pupil is the numbness. That's the sound of inside your mind. And then the iris is the intolerable experience, which is where you perceive your soul colors from, because it's the color of your eyes, which is right next to the window of your eye, which is your pupil. So you experience how intolerable things are through the color of your eyes. And then we move on to the blood veins, which represent the shame that you have felt from those intolerable experiences. And then we get to the sclera, or the eyeball itself, the white part, which is the defense against the shame that you felt, which is by attacking yourself, attacking others, avoiding others, or withdrawing from others. And the eye socket itself is the behaviors and acts from the numbness that you felt from the intolerable experience that caused you shame, to be able to defend yourself in ways of attacking oneself, attacking others, avoidance, or withdraw. And the eye socket is covered by skin. Therefore, body language is exalted through your skin, which shows your soul's energy through your body language. So that is how the structure of soullessness is in my view. It's an eyeball. So when I have a bad experience and I end up having a piece of soullessness, one of my eyeballs, or my dreams, because my dreams are eyeballs, because I have a third eyeball back here. It opens up and I look through my third eye when I fall asleep, and I don't look through these two eyes. So when a bad experience happens and I have a part of soullessness created in my life, an eyeball falls on the floor. Now, I can't just smash this eyeball and get rid of it. I can't bury it, start it on fire. I can't do any of those things. I have to be able to take care of that eyeball and put it back in my brain. I can't eat the eyeball because then it'll go to my stomach and come out. Or maybe if something's happened to where that eyeball's happy and healthy now and it's ready to get out of the numbness zone, maybe then I can eat it and get the nutrients, or the spiritual nutrients, back from that eyeball in order to move on with that part of my life with forgiveness and just being able to be okay with what happened. Now, I don't know how many eyeballs I've got on the floor here. Probably so many that I'm probably buried in them right now, swimming around. And that's not my fault. People cause me to drop eyeballs on the floor. I don't appreciate that, but people get away with spiritually damaging people all the time, and no one decides that's a criminal offense. And you can't use the excuse that I didn't know or I was ignorant, and that's why I spiritually harmed you. If you don't know something, you should probably go see a counselor or at least ask the person first before you decide to do something that's going to spiritually harm them and cause them to drop one of their dreams on the floor and have to look at this dream eyeball on my floor every day that I wake up and I'm like, hey, buddy, it ain't time to leave yet. Like, I'm probably not going to eat him. He's probably just a crying little eyeball sitting on the floor. But maybe he'd want to go back into one, like maybe what would happen is if I was okay with that eyeball that fell on the floor because of a numbness experience, and I was no longer numb from that eyeball dream that fell on the floor, maybe the next time I slept, that eyeball would jump inside my dream and connect itself to another dream eyeball and go back where it came from. And just remember, I can't see my ears and eyes. That's why I have a strawberry heart that's sweet and bright. And I can take a drink of water and try to blow it out my nose. Said that backwards for y'all, but whatever. So, finally, it is possible that a person seeks to cover up one's shameful, defensive, indifferent actions arising from numbness through society, through secrecy and deception. A layer of deceit can emerge to cover the behavioral acts and imagine it from the conditions of numbness. Thus, in this model, the concentric layers that form soullessness, arranged from innermost and outermost, are the numb core, the memory of the intolerable experiences such as trauma and failure, shame, defense against shame, indifferent or cruel behavior and psychological acts, calculated use of deception. From the six-tier model, from this six-tier model, we get a sense of the dense layers of experience that collect around soullessness. Normally, the layers that make up soullessness, numbness, trauma, inadequacy, shame, defense against shame, acts of indifference, deception, drop below the threshold of consciousness and conscious. Numb sectors are in the psyche are heavily barricaded from awareness. In fact, numb places are among the most deeply buried places in the psyche. In addition to being deeply buried, they are usually heavily defeated. I don't even care about their six-tier model because if you're going to cause me to have a spot in my life that's soullessness, you're literally taking out one of my dream eyeballs and you're throwing an eyeball on the floor in front of me that I have to stare at until somehow I can convince it to leave by combining itself back into another one of my dreams. So I don't care about their six-tier model because I just showed you all about having an eyeball in your mouth. And that's why Ronald Reagan was trying to study LSD, but apparently he couldn't get to the point. And I'm not on LSD, but I've done it before. So if anybody in the government was worried about what Ronald Reagan was doing, the research has been completed. To restore the soul's deeper, passionate nature requires traveling back through all the psychological landscapes that have constellated around the original numbness. Given the successive layering of difficult experiences, finally, it is possible that a person seeks to cover up one's shameful, defensive, indifferent actions arising from numbness through secrecy and deception. A layer of deceit can emerge to cover the behavioral acts that emanate from the condition of numbness. Thus, in this model, the concentric layers that form soullessness, arranged from innermost to outermost, are the numb core, the memory of the intolerable experiences such as trauma and failure, shame, defense against shame, indifferent or cruel behavior, and psychological acts, calculated use of deception. Do we really care why or how people go about doing evil things? Aren't we more worried about how we can convince them to just not do it? I'm just wondering, like, isn't that a more important question? Part of my brain really wants to draw you a model, and I want to kind of prove to you I can turn that into a face instead of just an eyeball by adding two more things, but I don't want to because I don't care. I have just found a bunch of eyeballs on my floor that are dreams that I've had that are no longer happy with my life. I'm happy I found them, but they're not happy I found them. And it's probably going to be a very miserable life until I can get a woman to come in here and clean up. So, I don't care. You want to draw a model for the 6th tier model? Be my guest. To restore the soul's deeper, passionate nature requires traveling back through all the psychological landscapes that have concealed around the original numbness. I was born with a rare eye disease that caused natural hallucinations. That's the original thing. So something was wrong inside my dad's testicles when I came out to go fly into my mother's egg, and something was wrong with my eyeballs. We don't know what caused it. I don't know if he was drinking. He might have been on some mushrooms. I have a preconceived idea that I was conceived at a Pink Floyd concert on mushrooms. Well, technically, my parents were eating the mushrooms because they traded them for a bottle of liquor that he snuck in with his boot. So they were having sex on mushrooms, and I happened to be in his testicles during that ejaculation. So I come out as a sperm on mushrooms, the hallucinogenic mushrooms. And that's probably why my eyes were all messed up. We were all probably messed up. All my brothers and sisters, however many millions of us there were, somehow I was fast enough and strong enough while tripping on mushrooms to make it into my mother's egg. But I suffered the consequences because my eyeballs were messed up when I was born. Given the successive layering of difficult experiences that surround numbness, we can infer that arduous and complex psychological work is entailing in turning towards soullessness into entailed in turning towards soullessness in oneself. In turning towards soullessness in oneself. It is quite a psychological feat to turn consciously towards one's own soullessness, inclusive of its behavioral manifestations and the defensive, shamed, traumatized, and numb layers from which it emanates. Still, unpeeling each layer in the presence of the awareness is necessary for the restoration of the experience and the reawakening of the soul's passionate nature. All right, let's try this. It's a quite psychological feat to do this, huh? Well, so the behavioral manifestations of my second numbness, because I don't remember my life before the age of 3, and I cracked my skull open at age 2, because the average person doesn't start making memories till around the age of 3, called infantile amnesia. So during my infantile amnesia, I cracked my skull open, and then I did not know how to properly express my emotions in order to fit in and be popular with majority of society. And then the defensiveness showed up at puberty, or no, the defensiveness would have showed up when I blew my eye up. Well, I didn't blow my eye up, but like I put a black cat in a Roman candle. It didn't go off. So I stuck my left eye down there and boom. Had to wear an eye patch over my left eye at age 7. And it switched my eye dominance to my right, which is why I hate my right eyeball dominance. And I like wearing my eye patch because I like to be afraid of speaking. I like to fear speech. I enjoy it very greatly. Very like a vacuum. So, and that was defensive. That was the defensive part of my turning to soullessness. Like, you'd be defensive too if one day you look around saying, oh, everything's red. And then all of a sudden it's like, everything's yellow. Well, that's the defensive, and I'm going to get defensive about it. And especially since I didn't even know what was going on. So that caused me to start putting myself into a conscious coma. I was in a conscious coma from the age of 7. Since I switched eye dominances and entered a different realm of a universe of thought pattern consciousnesses between subconscious conversations of the differences between left and right eye dominance versus perspectional dominance. Within the fact that visual replacement therapy has always existed within the mind of a left eye dominant person. I was just the first person to copyright it. So, and then this turns into shame because, like, I was ashamed of the fact that, well, I could never get an attractive girl to date me and love me. The women that I wanted would not date me. We were friends, might have made out a couple times, but they would never date me because I got friend zoned, and that caused a lot of shame. And the shame was that I was in a conscious coma, and it caused me to feel ashamed because I didn't understand why I couldn't get one attractive woman that I wanted to date love me, at least for a little bit. And then when I decided and told my mom, I'm tired of being good because it wasn't working out. I wasn't getting any women, wasn't getting the attention I wanted. So at age 14, I started smoking pot and drinking Jack Daniels. And when I started doing hallucinogens, the LSD, or probably it was the cocaine that I first did, that started the ideas of traumatization. And no, back up. I smoked mushrooms the first time at age 14. Or, no, 15. I did the mushrooms. I smoked the mushrooms at age 15, which I wasn't conscious during that trip. Literally, I sat there watching TV while my buddy who was diabetic was drinking Mountain Dew. And I sat there Indian style, and I felt like my whole head was just a little bunch of black and white square fuzzies, 360-degree cube around my body. That was me. You would call that the television static back in the day before digital television came out, because the old TV channel stations, if the TV station was out, it would turn into little black and white fuzz, and we would call them ants or fuzz or whatever. And for the whole purpose of white noise, it's black noise. Noise is black because it can move through the color spectrum and cause vibrations and wavelengths and frequencies that you can see through the around you move around. Plus, you can feel vibrations as well. So whoever decided to call it white noise is literally an idiot. And you should probably be forced to wear an eye patch over your dominant eye for the rest of your life. So it's black noise, people. And the numb layers from which it emanates. The numb layers were each individual hallucination that I started having, because the hallucinations kind of started at puberty before I was doing drugs, but they were more hallucinations centered towards my feet and how I walked. Don't really know much about that except for I was counting steps and like I was worried about my feet. I don't know why. I was always looking at my feet and worried about love and my feet. I don't even know. But I was worried about my feet and that caused me a lot of numbness. And then it got worse with the numbness when I started doing hallucinogens. And then it got worse when people started slipping me hallucinogens, which, for the record, I've been slipped hallucinogens 7 different times. There are 7 different deadly sins, and slipping somebody a hallucinogen is considered attempted manslaughter. And if anybody ever got caught doing that, you would go to prison. In other words, you pretty much tried killing my soul by slipping me hallucinogens. Let's pray my kids don't get. Well, if you're left eye dominant and get slipped hallucinogens, you're going to be okay. If you're right eye dominant and you get slipped hallucinogens, you might never make it back. So let's hope that my daughter doesn't get slipped hallucinogens for the safety of her mind. She's a very smart person. And the layers from which it emanates. We've got layers upon layers upon layers, and I'm not going into the whole story of my life, even though I've already started, because it's probably been done before. But just because I know you want me to, I will. I got locked up at age 18 for being crazy from saying weird things. At age 19, I was in a unconscious coma, and there was a time period I was in a catatonic state in a glass room in a mental hospital. And for no prompting purposes of knowing the thoughts were coming out of my mouth, I screamed, see sounds, hear colors. And at that moment, I felt like my throat got slit because I had a hallucination and my throat got slit. It was more of a fishy throat, like I was a fish or a mushroom fish or big. It was just yellow. It was a yellow, just like ah, and then like I got locked up and had to get my wrist sewn up because I had cut my wrist open, um, trying to climb out of a glass window that I broke. Didn't work. Cut my wrist, so now I have a snake tattoo to cover up the scar, so people don't think I tried killing myself. Because if I tried killing myself, it's not that hard to do it. You shoot the back of your pineal gland. You cannot live without your pineal gland. So if you shoot your brainstem, you're going to die. So I met my ex-wife, who for some reason says that she thought she had a dream about me before she met me. I think she's just full of shit. But 3 days later, she asked me to marry her and have kids with her. And granted, remember, this was year 3 of me being stuck in the psychiatric system, telling them I'm not mentally ill, I'm just trying to think. And they continued to feed me Zyprexa and tell me I was schizoaffective, which is schizophrenic and bipolar. So 2 more years go by, and it's kind of an okay relationship where, I mean, we're doing okay. And age 21 turns up, and I can legally buy alcohol. So I tell these people, hey, I tell myself, let's not tell them anymore because they're not listening. It's been 5 years. If I can drink enough alcohol, I don't have to think about what's really wrong. I don't have to think about what I don't know. I don't have to think about what I don't know that I should know because I want to know it, but no one will tell me what I want to know because they're telling me that what I think I know is wrong. So I start drinking heavily, and for 6 years, I turn into an alcoholic and I black out every weekend. 2 incidences of those, I kicked my ex in the crotch, I got arrested and locked up in a mental hospital. The other incident that supposedly was violent, I remember pulling her out of the bathroom. If there was any other abusive attacks towards that woman, I do not remember because I was blacked out. So I do not care. I was not making conscious decisions to do anything. I do not remember anything but those two incidences. I don't know what happened when I pulled her from the bathroom. All I know, it was a brief flash of a second, and I could have been helping her from falling down for all I know. I do know I was taking shots of beer and chasing it with vodka that night, but that's the last thing I remember fully before blacking out. So there's your story that somebody has asked to hear, and if you don't believe me, then you can just you can go suck your own dick. That's what you can do. So and then I get divorced, and then things start getting better psychologically, but physically not getting better. My body's tearing down because I can't move anymore. I'm not having sex anymore to keep my spiritual energy up or to keep my dreams happy. I've lost my kids, so I feel like I lost part of myself. End up getting put on disability because I'm still mentally ill and really, really messed up from a guy who told me to take the cotton out of my ears and stick it in my mouth. Which he told me that, I thought that, hey, when I yawn, I feel like I have cotton in my ears. What the hell? So then I started saying things like that, but I started explaining it in dumb terms. Instead of saying, take the cotton out of your ears and stick it in your mouth, which is supposed to mean, shut up, I can sit there and say, no, it doesn't. It means that when I yawn, I feel like I have cotton in my ears. And then there's nothing left to be said on that clever statement, because that's the cleverest part of the clever statement that you can be cleverest in. And that's what I've been doing, is finding clever statements and making them the cleverest amount of clever that you can find them to be, to where there's no more cleverness or no more mystery within that clever statement. The end of the rabbit hole. But I do have another question about that. But I'll ask you. Hopefully, I remember about my question. But still. So I go to college, and after I go to college, I start learning about psychology. I wanted to go be a human service mental health provider, community support worker, but I was told because of my background that I could not be in that field. So the only choice was psychology. That was anyway same interesting at all. And they consider psychology an art. And in order to get a psychology degree that gets you a job, you need a bachelor's degree. As far as I'm concerned, I am the master of psychology on this planet. I know everything there is to know about psychology. I may not know every statement and how to phrase it, but I know every insight possible. Even if you tell me something, I'm probably going to tell you you're wrong and that I know more. Or I'm going to say you're right, but then I'm going to elaborate on your idea to make it make more sense. So I still am the oldest soul on this planet. So I get to college and I learn about how my brain, I get a job after running around from my college, talking to all these teachers about my book and all my weird essays I write that were imaginal psychology, which at that point I found analytical psychology through Carl Jung. Carl Jung did not finish his studies. So I felt it was my duty to do so, because in one of his books I read, any man that finds things that are not true to humanity today, it is his duty to tell them, no matter what, to tell them what he finds on his path. Because they may not be true today, but they may be true one day. So because of that, my soul has forced me to go through this to the end until there's nothing left to be said. And you guys realize that I did what no man has done before in psychology, which is bridge imaginal psychology with modern day psychology. So I end up, for a couple years, I go back and forth and I'm doing all those things and blah, 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 blah. And then I moved to Hastings to get a job. Or no, then I get a job at the college after changing my name to Lefty because my birth name's Chad. You can call me whatever you want. Chad sounds like I have braces, so it's kind of cool. It was a psychology experiment that I did to try to change my consciousness to understand what left-eye dominant people are supposed to behave, think, and just who they are. So I get the job at the college, and I work as a professional intern for the sustainability program at the college where I worked. And I went to school there. Loved it, got to dress up in suit material, like dress shirts, sat at a desk, did emails, talked about professional stuff. They paid me to talk about my ideas, which is what I wanted, which is what I deserve. I deserve to get paid for my ideas. But society dictates because of the way I look and the amount of money I have and my criminal background that I am nothing more than a Burger King worker to you. So I end up moving to a different town and transfer my job so I don't have to drive very far anymore. And some punk kid slips me LSD or possibly a motion sickness drug. I don't know. But they put that in my drink and another girl's drink that I was kind of attracted to, but she was pretty young. She was 19. But I still talked to her and we had fun. She liked talking about my weird ideas sometimes. But after I got slipped drugs, I literally sat at my desk and wrote a 3-page essay, which I have, that proves analytical psychology is not real. Do you want me to find it? I'll read it to you. This is why I got fired from college. And I haven't read this since that day. I don't know where it is. Probably in here. The funny thing is, I have proof that my kids used to say weird things all the time because I have them written down because they wrote them down and gave them to me. Here it is. This is why I got fired from school. I wrote this essay at school on paper, and I in town for the college, and I copied 5 copies in my counselor's or my advisor's office, 50 copies of this, 3 pages, stapled them all together, and then I delivered them individually, all 50 of them, to every academic advisor, to every admissions director, or every the word everybody that was important, the president and his people, the Congress of the college, whatever. I delivered this to everybody in their office. I walked in, I handed it to them, explained a little bit, and left. Sometimes I just left it on a desk. But 50 people in the administration building got this article, and I handed it to them from what they said was rudely, but then they later found out that I scared the shit out of them. And I have not read this since I wrote it. So here we go. I can prove that analytical psychology is not real. Unfortunately, I am unable to proceed because of lack of massive funding. I am not saying this for me. Without massive funding, it is impossible to do so, and I bet you're smart and know that too. After releasing number 7, I will proceed to make a common sense test by interviewing kindergarten through 12th grade teachers to find out how each age group misused and misuses common sense, and make 12 separate tests Each child will take this test in the beginning of the school year, at the middle of the school year, and at the last day of school. After the tests are graded, they will be handed back down to the student for personal examination. I think you want Chapter 2. You better. I love you all too much not to demand massive attending or funding. Can you see your ears and eyes right now? What if you look in the mirror? One day, a mama alligator was sleeping and lost her sleepwalking baby alligator and couldn't find him. The baby alligator got eaten by a meditating bear. Little did the bear know the baby alligator didn't die and started to grow inside the bear. When the baby alligator, who was full grown now, awoke, found a daddy rabbit living in the bear as well. He accidentally screamed because he was frightened. When he screamed, a bullet flew out of his mouth and killed the mama alligator. A panda bear, who was over in the distance falling down a drain, happened to hear the commotion and decided to join the party inside the bear. They lived happily ever after in Candyland. The end. Just now. P.S. Humans have 6 senses: sight, hearing, touch, smell, taste, and thought. How can it be difficult to organize 6 things? Number 1, hearing. I have a grapevine in my backyard. Pretty much fruit grows out of my ears, people. Touch. There is lots of yellow energy on your right foot. Sorry. Mushrooms, bananas, bears. We don't know. Feet smell like mustard. That's what touch is. Smell. I can breathe in my mouth, then out of my nose with my eyes closed, but you will only find soap if you do. I can breathe in my mouth, then out of my nose with my eyes closed, but you will only find soap if you do. Close your eyes. Breathe in your mouth, then out your nose. You found some soap. Sight. My eyes talk because they drip down my nose. Five is taste. I'm gonna think with my fingers and type on this screen. Thought. You cannot see past sound. I'm not going to explain those because I figure that you're smart enough to figure those out. If I have to type on this screen with my finger all the time, like a touch screen, I guess you can lick my face. And then I have, did you get that package or not? From T-Rex. Fire was in fire on the right and water on the left. That was his signature. Did you get that package or not? T-Rex, with water on the left and fire on the right. So I got fired for handing that to them, which proved analytical psychology wasn't real. Why? Because there is going to be a different state of consciousness awareness once we start traveling at light speed in outer space. Well, back to the article. Oh, that was it. So I have one question for you. After hearing why I got fired and how I reorganized the senses according to light space, and we'll just give you the one that is the loudest. You can't see past sound. So, I have one question for you. What is in the other side of the rabbit hole? Do you remember what I said about the rabbit hole when I told you I wasn't going to ask you that question till the end? I don't. It pertained to what I said to show you the rabbit hole. But I wanted to be funny about it and leave this question with you. What is in the other side of the rabbit hole?